Hello and welcome to the second broadcast of the 2017 Big Ten Network League of Legends. I'm Tom Seraphos, and here on the desk with me again for week 2 is Mark Zimmerman.
Yeah, I'm happy to be back, happy to be doing some more collegiate games and looking forward to see what they pull out.
It's going to be really exciting because we have a very interesting tournament here at the BTN. So let's go over the structure really quick in case you weren't here last week. The BTN is split into two divisions, the East and the West. The teams are going to play each other within their divisions, and then the top 4 teams from each of those divisions will enter a BTN playoffs. The East and the West champion will play at the end to crown an overall BTN champion.
That BTN champion will then join the League of Legends Collegiate Championship against the Campus Series to decide an overall college champion.
Yeah, so let's look at the schedule ahead of us, because this week we're going to be looking at the University of Wisconsin versus Minnesota, and then next week we're going to take a look at Michigan State versus Indiana.
A lot of interesting matchups here, Tom.
Yeah, and we got a lot of teams, just a lot of colleges altogether that are fairly recognizable. This is, of course, the BTN, so these will be very, very familiar schools for some of you guys, and very familiar schools within each other's rivalries, especially tonight's matchup, because Minnesota versus Wisconsin is an old rivalry.
Right, the first football match that kicked off this rivalry actually happened in 1890, and the original trophy was the slab of bacon. I am told that unfortunately it was not actually a slab of bacon. This appeared after the 1943 game and was then replaced with the less edible trophy of the Paul Bunyan axe.
Yeah, well, this rivalry is ancient compared to Minnesota's League of Legends team, however. They just started only about a year ago and have played in just a few small-scale tournaments. And now that the university is in the collegiate League of Legends scene, they're ready to prove themselves. They're looking to place highly within their group, but most importantly, they're planning to beat their longtime rivals over at Wisconsin.
And speaking of Wisconsin, this is a team that has been active since 2013. They've played a lot of collegiate League of Legends and have even made it into the playoffs a few times, so a lot of experience for them.
Yeah, and Wisconsin started off the season at number 8. It was 3 places higher than their opponents in Minnesota at number 11. Wisconsin is also an older, more experienced team, so it's going to be really difficult for Minnesota as kind of an opening task.
Right, so let's get into the roster, starting with Wisconsin. In the top lane, we have Alex 55137. He needs to get some numbers out of there. In the jungle, it is Sonaris X. Mid lane is Tall T. AD carry is Scooby, and his support in the bot lane is a Dream H2.
Well, across the rift, their opponents at Minnesota have a couple less numbers in their name. In the top lane, it's Central Time. The jungle is Nutters. Mid lane is Cat Hat. AD carry is Dewey Daddy, and their support is Final.
All right, a lot of interesting names in the collegiate scene, like always, of course.
Would not be surprised if Cat Hat is specifically named that because of the Katarina most frequently played champion, potentially a Katarina one-trick.
Could be a reference to that.
It could be. Well, we'll have to wind up seeing here. We're going to head into the draft phase right now to see exactly what these two teams wind up picking. As we mentioned before, the collegiate scene has a little bit of crossover with the competitive scene. Some of these very powerful jungle pickups. We are on 7-2, so we have to actually get a chance to kind of see a preview of some of the things that we may be getting from the competitive scene this coming week, although I guess we were right about that Katarina.
Yeah, that Katarina ban comes in. No cat tricks in this game.
Nope.
Like we were saying, though, there's probably going to be some carryover. It is a new patch, but the junglers are still really strong. Lethality was buffed on this patch. That's the big storyline for it, and so you can expect to see Jhin and Varus be very high priority in the bot lane, things like that. In the draft phase, surprised to see that there is no longer the targeting of the Rengar, LeBlanc, Camille on the top side. We're instead seeing a Zac ban as well as Rumble, though the LeBlanc ban comes in now as the second one.
Yeah, and we'll have to see, as you did mention, there's a lot of changes with lethality, makes like that Jace, that Varus a much more targetable kind of pickup to want in this draft phase. But of course, we are on the live client, and the collegiate team uses the 3-ban system, not the 5-ban per team system. So it'll be really interesting to see. And it looks like they've gone for just more targeted bans. You mentioned the Zac, the Rumble. There's a Rek'Sai being banned out right now as well from the side of Wisconsin. So.
Right. It's really surprising to see a Rek'Sai ban, given the fact that Rengar and Kha'Zix are available, 2 of the most common jungle champions right now, and arguably, or pretty inarguably, the strongest too. So the Rek'Sai ban is heavily targeted at Nutters and not just a, random, I'll just ban this jungler because I think it's the strongest, because it's not.
Well, that's one of the things too, is a lot of these players in the collegiate scene have like 1 or 2 champions they're extremely comfortable on. Cat Hat, obviously Katarina. In this case, it looks like Nutters. He has played a lot of Rek'Sai in the past. So getting those target bans down, but leaving open a lot of power picks. Camille, left completely untouched. You mentioned the 2 junglers. All of the top lane picks that are pretty power picks besides that Rumble that has been banned out are left available. And Wisconsin's going to start off by grabbing the Maokai.
Right, Maokai being what is considered to be the strongest of the tanks in the top lane available, just generally doesn't get bullied around, has a lot of matchups, very easy to use, very powerful in team fights and the early game. On the flip side, Nautilus, the most common pick into it if you want another tank, so it's no surprise to see that. And then the Camille locked in.
There we go.
And it's going to be interesting to see where exactly this Camille goes. In the pro scene, we saw that it can go support. It can be a pretty devastating support. And I mean, it can also work in the jungle and the top lane, so they have a lot of flex picks available for them on the side of Minnesota so far.
Yeah, that Camille being left open in and of itself is a very big surprise, but the fact that it may not be being played in the top lane is also another big surprise. But on the opposite side for Wisconsin, they do want to pick up that Kha'Zix you mentioned before, very, very powerful jungler on the patch, and a very safe kind of pickup in the mid lane with that Orianna.
Right, and I gotta say that I like the team comp so far for Wisconsin. It's one of the, what we call like a standard team comp that can do a little bit of everything. It's got good catch potential, good burst, good magic damage, good front line. Kha'Zix brings the physical damage, the resets, and overall really, really happy with what they have so far. Minnesota going a different way with the Taliyah and the Jhin locked in. They're going for more of a pick comp. The Taliyah is gonna try and isolate people in the side lanes, get to them, and then you have a lot of follow-up with the Jhin, a lot of range on him as well.
Yeah, and we mentioned Varus and Jace due to the lethality changes, but Jhin himself is going to be liking those a lot. He wound up going for that Ghostblade build in previous iterations. We'll see if it winds up being another factor in this one. But on the flip side, Wisconsin going to round everything out. The Ashe and the Karma picked up. These are all extremely powerful pickups and very kind of quote-unquote standard things, what we've seen from the competitive scene, but that bodes well considering all of like the one-trick kind of unique champions have been banned out, and everybody's going to just kind of pick what is considered very, very strong.
And the Malzahar lock-in for the last pick of Minnesota, kind of going even harder on that pick style strategy where they want to get a lot of people and blow them up instantly or isolate them from the rest of their team, catch them out of position. Their comp's great for that, and then like we said, Wisconsin on the other side having the more standard team comp.
Yeah, so why don't we take a look back at the results of that draft to really dissect what each of these teams is going to be looking to do with each other's composition. You did talk a little bit about Minnesota, so let's start with Wisconsin. You mentioned very straightforward, very standard, a little bit more pick potential.
Yeah, so Wisconsin, you know, they can get picks as well. They have the Ashe Arrow, the Maokai follow-up, but they're also really strong at team fighting and all around. Minnesota, on the other hand, the Taliyah, Malzahar, Jhin, and even Camille to that extent are really good at finding someone who's just slightly away from their team, hopping on them and locking them down. So those are the two strategies I see that these teams are going to go for.
Minnesota with some picks we may not necessarily see all the time with the Camille and the Taliyah, but Mark, I really got to ask you now, who you think is going to take it?
It's always hard to say. I generally favor more standard team comps like the one that Wisconsin has, but in the collegiate scene, things get really, really hairy quickly, and that's when you see these really pick-heavy team comps excel. So I'm a little torn, but I'm going to go with Wisconsin.
I kind of got to side with Minnesota because whenever I see a Camille, I just kind of feel like somebody messed up in the draft. So.
Yeah, it tends to feel that way.
Well, we've got our predictions, but we'd love to hear yours. So get on Twitter and let us know by tweeting hashtag LOL on BTN, I can talk, with either Wisconsin or Minnesota to make your pick. So as we're heading into game right now, you guys get your votes out there, and we're going to see what these teams bring to the Rift with these two very interesting team compositions.
Twitter, I expect you to side with me.
I expect Twitter to side with me.
I don't think that's going to happen. It's going to be me because not only am I right, I'm also a more likable person.
I don't know about that. You see, I'm the one who asked them nicely, and you just look very pretty.
I mean, I'll look pretty if that's, you know, that's my stigma, so to speak. But we are in game now. Minnesota on the red side with Wisconsin on the blue side. Probably going to be a pretty standard level 1, just spread out. Hopefully no more crazy 5-man, 10-man bot lane parties.
I was going to say, that was not the case last week on the BTN. We had Rutgers and Maryland going very aggressive against each other at level 1 in game 1. It did not pan out.
A very explosive way to start the season for the BTN.
Well, this one, as you mentioned, does seem to be a little bit more straightforward, potentially taking a page out of each other's football teams' books and setting up a kind of line of scrimmage just at the duck in the middle of the river.
You gotta always show the duck whenever you get these kind of slower level 1s. Both teams here kind of just covering their jungle entrances, though Minnesota has a little tweak on it where they're not watching the mid lane or the kind of ramp into the Raptor pit, excuse me. So they're focusing more on hopefully catching someone out, just trying to drop a shallow ward in the bot side and jumping on him. But it doesn't look like anyone from Wisconsin is going to make that mistake.
No, Wisconsin taking this one rather safe, rather slow, but Minnesota not going to get punished for kind of leaving their top side of the map exposed. But of course, if you have the duo lane set up and you're going to want to leash for that jungler, you're most likely going to be gravitating towards that bottom side of the map anyway. So kind of Minnesota already making the first kind of predictive call of where Wisconsin was going to start.
Right, and I'm going to be really interested what this Camille can do in the early game. Her E range is crazy in terms of being able to get a gank off, and there's a lot of CC in a lot of these lanes to help kind of follow up with whatever she decides to do. So I think Camille will be the star, so to speak, to track in the first 5-10 minutes of the game.
I really want to know what the strength of Camille's early jungle gank pattern is. I know that Zyrene has been playing a lot of the Camille in the jungle, and talking to him, he feels like it's a rather strong pickup, and he actually likes her in the jungle a lot more, but I'm still not entirely convinced. She has CC in her kit, so those early ganks could be very powerful, especially if you look towards the top side of the map when you have basically the crowd control robot himself, Nautilus, in the top lane.
Right, I mean, Camille is just such a strong pick overall that anywhere you play her, you're like, yeah, this feels good.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind doing this again, but that's just more about the strength of Camille than the role she's playing in. We saw, like I said, they take that bot lane. That was Gate who did that in the LCS, and I mean, it looks super strong. We've seen it in the top lane a lot, and solo queue looks super strong, and now we're gonna get a look at it in the jungle queue.
Man, this bottom lane matchup as well. We've seen a lot of support Malzahar, but not paired with the Jhin, and already hitting that level 2, just being able to throw out the Deadly Flourish and just a quick hit from the Malefic Visions. Karma's taking so much damage.
Yeah, I mean, that is the power of Malzahar. He seems to be able to win every trade early on with the Voidlings and the Malefic Visions, like you said, just making it so you can't really trade back. You kind of just got to run away and wait for that stuff to time out.
Yeah, now you have an extremely long-range AD carry like Jhin paired up with that, even though the Ashe has kind of had a reign of dominance as of lately in the bottom lane. She has the volley to poke, she has a decent amount of range. Your support's going to be left unattended that Malzahar and Jhin jump on them, so going to be looking at Dewey Daddy and Final to try to get some early game pressure on the bottom side.
Right, and just to touch a little bit on one of the players, Scooby is one of those guys who doesn't play a ton of ranked mode.
Right.
He's one of those normal queue superstars, kind of the same vein of Meteos, who's always playing with challenger level players in normal games and performing extremely well. But when you look at his kind of match history in ranked games, he doesn't seem to play that much. I think he's sitting at Diamond 5 right now, but his win rates are crazy.
Yeah, he has an insane amount of win rates on some of these AD carries, and we'll take a look at the top side of the map for a minute here. Cenarius actually coming in, gets the flash forward from Central Time. Nutters comes in, but it's already given up first blood over to the side of Wisconsin. Nutters is going to just have to jump himself out of there, though. Just a very nice gank by Cenarius.
Right, it's basically who gets there first is who wins, and Wisconsin's able to pull the trigger, getting onto the Nautilus at the beginning of the gank, so that way by the time Camille comes in for the backup, it's already too late and it's a 2v1.
No, I guess that's what happens when you have two tanks just slapping around at each other. The first one to get a little bit of extra help winds up coming out on top there.
Right, and it is that kind of thing where you're so used to just hitting each other, it's hard to tell a gank is coming, because usually, you're hitting each other nonstop, have nothing to worry about. As we see Scooby getting jumps on here and forcing the exhaust out on the side of Wisconsin.
Yeah, so exhaust down in the HP bar, also down from Scooby here. And as we talked about before, you said Scooby kind of one of those normal queue heroes. Give some hope to some of you collegiate, other collegiate League of Legends players out there. He's actually bronze, I believe, in season 3 or 4.
I think it was 4 he was bronze.
And then 5 was platinum.
6, you said he was unranked, I believe.
He took a year off. He only played a couple of games. And
well, hold on here. Off in the ranked mode. This guy has a ton of normal games. He plays a lot.
Yeah, he definitely does. We're looking at some of his normal queue win rates as well, and they are, I think, all above 75%. So this guy definitely knows what he's doing. Although when in the face of this Jhin and Malzahar matchup in the bottom lane, like we said, this is something that could be brand new for 7-2. We'll keep our eyes peeled on if Jin's going to go for that lethality kind of build. He has actually started with the Doran's Blade, which is a little bit different than what we've seen in some of the LCK games. We saw people going for the longsword and the 3 health potions when they wanted to go lethality.
Right, I think it's the kind of thing that it might depend a little bit on matchup. When you're against a Varus, you face a lot more poke damage, and being able to sustain through that is very important. And against the Ashe and Karma, you're expected to kind of win the lane already, so it's not quite as bad. But we see Cenarius getting in for a gank on the bot side, hopping onto Final.
Yeah, he just jumped right in the way of that Malzahar, and he's going to donate the kill over to Scooby to give him some relief from that oppressive lane phase.
And we see, the Kazakhs, I said maybe got to keep our eye on the Camille, but it's his counterpart on the other side for Wisconsin putting in all the work early game.
Yeah, and meanwhile on the top side, Central Time and Alex just continuing to trade blows back and forth. Even though Central Time fell to that early first blood gank from the Kazakhs in top lane, still seems to potentially be getting a little bit of the better of these trades, but Nautilus in the early game does deal a surprising amount of damage.
Yeah, Nautilus does have not only the damage, but probably the best wave clear of any of the tanks that tend to be seen. As we see him opening up onto Alex, forces the flash out in the 1v1. That's great for him.
Yeah, and that also means Nautilus is going to hit level 6 right now, so if Alex is not very careful, he could wind up using the ultimate, trying to get the tower dive. Doesn't even need anything else. This, the ultimate itself, winds up taking down Maokai.
I gotta say, that was a little misplayed. He should use the W to break off the ultimate there, disjoin it, but unfortunately does not do so.
And if it's
takes the damage, just goes down for free under his turret.
Yeah, the Twisted Advance also could have potentially procced Courage of the Colossus to trap Nautilus under the tower, but that wasn't available. Unfortunately, it winds up translating into a solo kill after the early first blood was actually given up by Central Time on the top side. So we'll have to see if Cenarius winds up paying a kind of revisit gank to that lane. Because once you get ahead in like that tank versus tank matchup, you're kind of like, oh, okay, he's ahead, he's fine.
Right, I mean, the tank versus tank matchup is definitely not one that snowballs out of control in terms of, oh, I got a kill, let me go stomp my lane now. It generally means that you just have priority in that lane, and it's about finding ways to use that map advantage, not stomping your lane, but can you roam mid? Can you make a TP play bottom? Can you go get extra wards in their jungle? That's really what you're looking to do in this kind of matchup.
Well, in addition to potentially moving forward and getting a couple of wards down in the opposing jungle, now we've hit the time where the mid laners are being donated that second blue buff. Cat Hat here on Talia. We haven't actually talked too much about this pickup. Seen a little bit of rise in popularity, but now she also has that Weaver's Wall available to her. There's no teleport from the side of Central Time. We're going to be looking for her as well as the Camille in the jungle to really kind of be the roaming duo to maybe make something happen on the map.
Right, I mean, Talia is one of those champions who, she gets all her damage in the first, 3 abilities in QWE, but her R is really what makes her tick when she's able to start flying around the map with her ultimate. As we see, Scooby opening up on Dewey Daddy a little bit here, getting a favorable trade.
Yeah, his own ultimate kind of flying back, but the turnaround right away, both heals have to be burned from either AD carry. A lot of damage coming out from the support. Malzahar has to turn Scooby around.
Scooby's like, that's not fair.
Yeah.
I was 1v1ing the other AD carry. Get this support Malzahar out of here. Uh-oh, Central Time getting ganked again.
Yeah, he's not getting in his own 1v1. Now Alex has called for help, and Cenarius is going to be leaping on him there, and the taste of the fear is there. Kha'Zix picks up a second kill.
Things are looking overall pretty strong for Wisconsin in terms of their team play. Even though that Maokai is down in the 1v1, he keeps getting assistance, and I mean, it's paying off. They got 2 kills onto the side, onto Central Time.
Wisconsin's definitely been more proactive in the early game here, and Nutters on this jungle Camille has farmed up, has hit level 6, is going to wind up having the ultimate available. We'll have to see if there's any moves that have been really made, but Wisconsin has definitely been, even though they have been kind of on the receiving end of some poke and punishment on the bottom side of the map, the one that has been more proactive, even with the Orianna coming in, popping Ghost into the bottom lane, roaming even before the Talia is going to be able to.
And that was a little bit of a pipe dream, just blowing her Ghost.
Yeah.
They're hoping she can get in with no Ash Arrow. If they had the Ash Arrow up, great roam attempt, but I think it was a little ambitious hoping something like that would work. But you touched on the fact that they are being more aggressive on the bot side of the map, and we see about a 20 CS lead on the side of Scooby. And despite how horrible the trades always seem to be, he is CSing significantly better than Dewey Daddy.
Yeah, and he's definitely going to be benefit of the fact that even though the Malzahar does deal a lot of damage, the Karma is a decent poker herself, but also has an Inspire Shield to really keep Ashe alive. A lot of these AD carries have already burned through all of their health potions. We actually saw a refillable potion picked up by Dewey Daddy. So even though they have been the one putting out a decent amount of punishment, he's also taking it himself, had gone back and picked that one up, so just doesn't need to worry about buying health potions anymore.
We see Sonorous handing over the blue buff to Tall T. Going to be trying to matching the Talia's wave clear. It's extremely strong. That's one of the things that allows her to roam so well is the fact that she can shove waves and not need to sit around mid. I really want to see Minnesota go for a forced play somewhere on the map. They have a lot of tools to do so. You would think it would be targeted around the bot side as we see they're setting up a Brush King or Scooby get the flash ultimate onto him.
Yeah, the flash of Nethergrass goes down. In comes Camille as well. Nutters is going to pick up the first kill for the side, for her jungle Camille here. Meanwhile, both those teleports completed, and Alex is going to try to continue to force this one, but
he does get
Minnesota
him.
is here. He trades a kill on the final, but he wants to give up his own life in a 1 for 2.
And that here you really do see the power of Minnesota's comp. They can start fights and get there extremely quickly. It was a great job by Nutter sneaking into that bot lane brush to be able to get the jump onto Scooby, start that fight off. As we see them not done yet, they continue to dive and we're going to pick up Karma as well.
Yeah, flash dredgeline there by Central Time with all 4 members, considering Malzahar had gone down strong from Minnesota. They're going to try to get this first blood tower gold. The rest of Wisconsin is slowly coming in. The Enchanted Crystal Hour lands a flash and a shockwave. Will want to take it on Central Time, but the curtain call is out. 1 shot, 2 shot, 3 shots, and 4 will land onto the Orianna, chunking her down to half HP, but Wisconsin will keep the tower alive.
It looks like that'll be the end of that pretty extended sequence, overall being a 3 for 2, I believe, on the side of Minnesota. And yeah, that's exactly what we were talking about, the strength of their comp. Even after they start that bot lane playoff, we see both TPs come in at the same time, but Talia is able to get down there so much faster with the use of her ultimate, the Weaver's Wall, getting her basically down to the bot lane way before Orianna or Kha'Zix can collapse, meaning that even though the Maokai is able to trade one kill back, he's left alone in the middle of 4 enemies.
That's right. Well, the Kha'Zix trying to solo the Cloud Drake will wind up taking it, but Final just comes in and with some help from a Voidlings and a Dragon is able to take down Kha'Zix.
That seemed like a little bit of a greedy play. You're hoping to catch the Dragon for free off the back of a reset from that long extended sequence that we're about to take a look at here. And yeah, this is just a great brush gank. They have it pink warded, making sure that there's no idea that this is coming. And then the Flash Malzahar ult is such an annoying tool to deal with, especially when you combo with the Camille ult.
Yeah, and we did see the Hawk shot going out just beforehand, but missed that brush. And when the teleport's complete here, it's a little bit interesting because Cat has already roamed all the way down from the mid lane. Alex is able to pick up a trade kill onto the Malzahar, but things looked really bad for Wisconsin. Minnesota had the right idea roaming down to go for this, but when they stay a little bit too long to try to get that tower and the respawn timers come in, since it's a very, very early game still, Wisconsin's able to kind of come back, but then they do their own thing where they overstay a little bit and go for the Dragon. I guess this is what kind of separates the collegiate scene from some of the challenger and the LCS.
Right, I don't even hate the idea of reading out a Dragon as we see once again a big play happening in the bot side of the map.
And Enchanted Crystal Arrow lands on the Nutters, but then they immediately enter with the Nether Grasp, and now Final's going to be in a world of hurt as the Kha'Zix is chasing down, trying to get those claws, raking into the last shots for Final. The flash forward from Dewey Daddy is going to get the 4th shot crit, but will keep him alive. The shockwave goes off as well. Everybody has extremely low health bars on each side here. Cat Hat's going to be winding up throwing out some of those rocks just to try to slow down Scooby. Now Dream is going to wind up de-warding a little bit. Both sides get extremely low. No one dies.
No one dies. It's good to see that no one's overextending, thinking they can get a play off when they can't. A lot of action happening around the bot side of the map, and both teams basically quad laning in the bot lane.
Pretty much. Minnesota already knows that tower is extremely low, and Wisconsin just does not want to give it up. But neither team has any ultimates, and the Talia damage just deletes Scooby.
Scooby, not realizing that the Talia W was down on the ground there, just walks right into it and goes down, as now Cat Hat almost makes a mistake overextending.
Well, the curtain call is out. It's hit one shot on pretty much everybody here, as Karma's going to block that 4th shot crit, and nobody will go down, but that's just the power of that seismic shove coming out from Talia. Just knock him into the minefield and tons of damage comes out.
Right, it can be a hard thing to play around under the turret. You're trying to get some autos in on the minions, get some wave clear out, and next thing you know, there's a little thing under the ground pushing you forward.
It could just also be a lack of familiarity. The Talia pickup is not the most common mid laner, and the range on that seismic shove is very, very large. And when you're playing an AD carry like Ashe, you're playing with a support like Karma, you're so used to in the early game being able to outrange a lot of your opponents. Sometimes you just don't see that coming, and it translates into the Minnesota finally taking on the bottom lane tower. They get the first blood tower gold from that themselves, so we'll have to see where they wind up moving on the map now, considering their dual lane has shoved out, the tower is no longer there. It looks like they're going to try rotating them towards that top side.
Right, and on the other hand, for Wisconsin, Scooby is freezing the bot lane, just trying to keep it there for a little while and farm up, get a larger CS advantage. And Minnesota really does need to kind of up the pace here. They're behind in CS in a lot of ways, and we see them starting off the fight in the top side, trying to get a pick onto Alex. 5-5, 1-3-7.
The dredge line comes out after the ultimate comes down. Alex is going to have to pop his own ultimate just to stay alive.
Minnesota is not done yet. They're swinging the rest of their team up from behind the turret, trying to cut him off.
There's the Weaver's Wall. Winds up popping Alex on the opposite side until he is stuck on that same side. This time just to pop it as soon as it came up. They're going to be zoning away the entirety of Wisconsin from this top lane tower. They're looking to take their second of the game.
This is exactly what you want to see. You take the first turret, you rotate your whole team up to the top side, try and force another play while that Ashe has decided to push out the bot wave, but is basically stuck down there, unable to match the pressure that they want to put out.
Yeah, and we said that it was Wisconsin making a lot of early game map movements. It was really a lot of Cenarius kind of just doing it himself. Tall T tried to roam down, didn't really make anything happen, but now that Wisconsin has kind of hit their level 6 power spikes, they felt extremely comfortable moving around the map. They set up that bottom lane brush attempt. Now they are the ones that are kind of dictating the pace of the game. Central Time actually uses his teleport to get down to that bottom lane, stops the Ashe from doing it. So now it's Minnesota that has kind of been like, well, you guys are moving a little bit too fast. Now you're going to play to our pace.
Oh, we see Wisconsin's actually going to get a fight in the mid lane as well. Tall T looks like he's caught out of position, going to go down to Cat in the Hat as the TP finishes channeling, and Alex is in the middle of the team again.
Yep, Final's going to wind up going down, but there's the challenge issued by Camille, trying to trap people in there, but she's dropping low herself as Scooby's going to roam up and pick up that kill himself. The Enchanted Crystal Arrow was cleansed off by Cat Hat almost immediately, but Ashe is still able to find herself a kill.
Ends up being a 1-for-2 on the side of Wisconsin, but it seems like they're going to be a little scared to continue pushing around the mid lane as 3 members of Minnesota is still up.
Yeah, and as we can see in the mid lane here, Final going to wind up catching out Tall T, just another flash, and then the Nether Grass to really slow people down. Cat Hat, there's the cleanse on that Enchanted Crystal Arrow.
Right, and despite the fact that that was a pretty good engage, the Maokai does finish channeling his TP, cuts off the rest of the team to get the kill on the Malzahar, and then Camille gets low as well, trying to help out the Malzahar. Goes down as well.
Yeah, and despite the Camille's ultimate being a really great zoning tool and a really good ability to just kind of isolate one target, it also isolates yourself, so when the Kha'Zix kind of leaps into the fray there, you're going to be taking a lot of damage.
Yeah, you know, you definitely don't want to end up in a situation where you're going in alone. It's great if the Nautilus is there, providing some front line with you as well, a lot of disruption, but that was not the case. The Maokai was pretty happy just go to the middle, target one person, and target the next. And now we see that both bot lanes are stuck into the mid, trying to hold on to their mid lane turrets as the tanks take up the top side, and Taliyah goes bot side, setting up a 1-3-1 on the side of Minnesota.
Well, kind of makes sense if you're the side of Minnesota. Your duo lane has been able to take every other outer tower in the lanes that you have put them in. The last one on the map is going to be that mid lane. Dragon's going to be up in just a couple of seconds, so that one could be a potential point of contesting. We did see that the side of Wisconsin was able to trade their Kha'Zix for the Dragon last time around. So if you're going to want to start kind of playing for that objective play, playing for the later stages of the game and stacking up those Dragons, putting pressure in the mid lane, pushing out every single one of the side lanes, and just denying vision for that Ocean Drake that has just spawned.
Yep. And it is the kind of thing where forcing around that Dragon the first time, given that it was a Cloud Drake, you can say probably a little unnecessary, but I mean, you can see what they were thinking. They want to get the Dragon hopefully off the back of the enemy recall. What I'm interested to see here is what Minnesota does with their lane priority. They basically have control of all three lanes right now, and it's really choosing what they want to do. And I do like the fact that they're prioritizing this mid lane turret. They're able to push in the side lanes, wrap behind, but we see Wisconsin doesn't want to give it up that easy.
Ooh, Central Time eats the Enchanted Crystal Arrow, but Dream's going to get knocked back in there by the seismic shove. Central Time's going to get pushed and pulled around by the command shockwave. This Talkie takes a lot of damage from the curtain call on the backside from Jhin. Minnesota's lost one.
Alex did a great job there getting in front of the fourth bullet. It might have been enough to take out the Orianna, but he blocked it from even having to be a concern. That was a really heads-up play by him, making sure his Orianna does not go down. And it ends up being a 1-for-0, though the turret did take quite a bit of damage for Wisconsin. Yeah,
Wisconsin's tower takes damage, as did their support and their mid laner. We'll have to see if Minnesota's going to be able to do anything. They lost a member of their own team there, so they're not going to be able to go towards that Dragon, but they are still going to be able to apply a bit of pressure on the map. Both of those side lanes they originally had shoving out are starting to shove back on their own. It looks like they're going to send a member from each side of the map to try to push those back out.
Right, it's that kind of ebb and flow that you get into. You push your waves in, you group up around mid, forcing the other team to hopefully lose out on those side waves, and then eventually they push back your way. You break away from mid, you go deal with those waves. As you see Taliyah finish pushing that in, gonna get a recall off, and then it's about grouping up again.
Well, the Weaver's Wall is also available, so Taliyah, despite wanting to go back, actually cancels her own recall, is moving up towards the middle side of the river. We'll have to see if she winds up using that one just to roam up after pushing a lane, or she's gonna try to section off part of the fight. We saw them try to do that at the top side of the map. They weren't able to really get a catch, but they were able to take the tower because of it. They could do something very similar around either this mid lane tower, which they continue to pressure, or the Dragon, which looks like both of these teams really want to set up for.
Well, with Jhin showing on the top side, dealing with a big minion wave, you're gonna see Wisconsin start that Dragon off, hopefully getting it for free, because it's only a 4v5 for Minnesota. It looks like it's gonna be too hard for them to contest. They give it up, focus on pushing out the mid wave, and limiting Wisconsin from getting anything else.
Yeah, and despite the best efforts of Minnesota to try to set up to push that mid lane, to try to establish some priority towards the middle side of the map, it is going to be Wisconsin that winds up taking that Dragon away from them. So Dewey Daddy had to go back up top lane, get himself some much needed farm, as he is looking at about a 30 CS deficit between himself and his opposite number of Scooby. Both of them are going to be going for that Essence River build, however, so no lethality this time around, unless you're talking about the Kha'Zix, and he's built himself up a Black Cleaver on top of his Warrior Enchantment. Whereas Camille, the Warrior Enchantment, the Tiamat, very kind of standard things, but has stopped and gone for a Sheen as well. The Enchanted Crystal Arrow has missed, though. It looks like both these teams are going to be content to fight. Scooby winds up getting knocked up by the Nautilus ultimate. Alex in the front line taking, well, as I say, a lot of pain and punishment, but his HP bar really didn't move. Just kind of soaked everything up.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what happens when you're playing that champion. Now, what's interesting to see is what Minnesota's going to do off the backside. They really didn't blow any of their own ultimates other than the depth charge, so they have the opportunity to pick a fight once again here on this mid lane turret, as they are going to start off with a dive to actually just sections the team away from the turret, allowing them to take it for free.
Yeah, Cat using the Weaver's Wall just to cut off the team from their own tower. And that's going to be the third outer tower, the third tower of the game for Minnesota. 0 for Wisconsin. Despite all those early kind of movements in the lane phase, Wisconsin has no, well, they have 2 Dragons to show for it, but they have no structural damage to show
Right, I mean, the gold deficit up to about 2K now just off the back of those turrets. The CS is definitely still not horrible for each team. Talia has a pretty sizable lead on the mid lane because she has been splitting off to the side, collecting all those side waves, while Ori is left kind of dealing with whatever scrap she can get with the enemy team grouping up so much. And overall, we see that it's looking pretty good for Minnesota. I mean, I like what I've seen out of them so far. They seem to understand how their comp works, and especially the Talia. Talia is one of those picks that's so easy to do something stupid and just destroy your team. You wall off your carry, you throw yourself into the enemy team, but I've been pretty impressed with the Talia ult so far, never having one where either she's overextended or she's, kind of destroyed her own team.
And as we saw there, Talia being pretty much the 2,000 gold advantage for Minnesota and Wisconsin herself over her opposite member. Chantal Crystal Arrow goes down, but she's packed that cleanse, so she's able to just walk out.
Yeah, I mean, that's why you take that summoner. Ultimately, it is good for Scooby to have forced it out for free, basically. You're not necessarily going to get the kill on the first attempt, but it sets you up for hopefully that second attempt being able to convert.
If at first you don't succeed, try again.
Yep, just keep shooting those arrows out. As we see, Dewey Daddy a little extend in the mid lane. Sonaris is going to jump at him, realize, oh, there's a Malzahar here too. I don't want to get ulted and runs away.
If he jumps into a Nethergrass, it's going to be lights out for the Cossacks. It'll be one squash bug. So instead, he's going to wait for the rest of his team to show up here. A blue buff Talty and a red buff Scooby in the middle side of the map, middle lane of the map. But now it's on Minnesota. What do they do to push this advantage further? Because they've taken every single outer tower. We've seen that they can go into a pseudo 1-3-1 to push out the lanes, but they didn't establish a lot of forward vision last time, and it took them a little while to take that tower down.
Well, I think the warding is the big concern. For the most part in this game, we've seen Wisconsin actually have really good defensive vision once they end up on the back foot. If you look in the bot side of the map right now, they have most jungle entrances there warded, as well as along the top side, they have the Baron warded and the top entrance around the river. So overall, it's really hard for Minnesota to force a play without getting vision control first, because ideally what you want to do is set up kind of 1-3-1, push in multiple ways, and then Talia ults in from somewhere and the Nautilus TPs in from behind. But if Wisconsin keeps his vision up and can see that coming from a mile away, they also have the tools to counter that dive. It is really hard to dive an Orianna, Maokai, Ashe, and they see it coming. As we see, they try and force a play.
Yeah, Cat uses the Weaver's Wall to section everybody out, has to flash away. Sonaris has to flash over the blue buff wall himself. Final had that Nethergrass down, but he's going to wind up being the one that goes down.
Snipe Talty
gets dragged back in here, and now Nutters is in the fray. That's a double kill picked up with the Camille. Orianna's able to trade a kill into the low Talia, but now it's going to be a triple kill for the Camille in the middle of everybody. The dredge line goes out. The Camille is chasing down as well. Alex is going to get stunned up as she goes in. The flash away there. It's going to be a 3-for-2 trade for Minnesota.
There is no way that Central Time was aiming for Talty with that dredge line. There's no chance, but it was just a perfect hook. Snipes out the Orianna. The team extends a little bit into the shockwave, but overall, I want to take another look at this fight to see exactly how it started. We were talking about the fact that there's good vision for Wisconsin. They're able to see plays like this coming, and they try and get the jump on it going on to Talia, but we talk about how annoying that Malzahar is for Assassins. He gets stunned up right away, focused down, and then here's that dredge line. Talty just comes strolling into the frame. Hey guys, what's going on? Just yanked to the front line. He goes down really quickly, and then, they try and kite the play out from here, but it is a little too hard. The fourth bullet of Jin just whizzing by.
Yeah, and then the Deadly Flourish as well, not able to connect with the Karma to really kind of secure that kill, but it's still a 3-for-2 on the side of University of Minnesota, and that one was gained through Minnesota having a hole in the vision from Wisconsin. You talked about the fact they had really good defensive warding. Talia actually had 3 control wards in the inventory, placed one by the river, placed one in that position, and as soon as she saw a break in the vision, walled off the team and knew that they weren't going to be able to be there to reinforce it right away.
Yeah, and despite how nice that fight looked for Minnesota, it's really hard to convert off that. They did have 2 members going down on their own side, and they didn't pick up any turrets or any other objectives off the back of it. So while it's a nice fight, it's really not going to get them a ton of stuff. As we see that Wisconsin actually still has a lot of summoners on their side, even after that fight, both primary carries still having flash. And that's really important with the Dragon coming up, hopefully being able to contest it here as we see both teams grouping around as Snaris kind of getting started off with a pick.
Yeah, a lot of CC coming out from the side of Minnesota. The Talia comes in, the side shove goes backwards. Final's actually going to get stunned up by the Enchanter Crystal Arrow again, and this Malzahar, his 5th death of the game. He continues to be the frontline Malzahar that is unfortunately not surviving long enough. Still has a Nethergrasp available as well. So Wisconsin now capitalizing. It's a 5v4 situation. It's an Infernal Drake that has spawned, but Central Time's left dumb. The Depth Charge goes out into Scooby.
Ooh, nice Orianna Shockwave.
Man, Shockwave rips apart the backline from Minnesota. The Infernal Drake Dragon even getting into the fray. Central Time's gonna get zoned off right there, and he goes down.
Minnesota flubs the initial pick attempt onto Sonaris. They end up a little overextended, and despite the fact that Wisconsin gets kind of low, they have the extra member on their team, and they're able to actually get a couple kills and pick up the Infernal Dragon. So now Wisconsin, all 3 Dragons, going to be able to rotate down to the bot lane and ideally finish off this turret as well. Going to almost tie the goal back up once this drops.
So there it is, the first tower of the game for Wisconsin. You mentioned in Champion Select that Minnesota's team composition looked like they were the ones that are going to be a little bit more pick-oriented. They kind of had the idea of being able to section these fights off and everything. But every single time they've kind of gone for this, either Final winds up being caught out and dying. Their frontline Central Time, he has 5 deaths himself, has not really been able to stay alive for as long as they would wanted to. Wisconsin's kind of team cohesion just seems to be one step above what the composition of Minnesota wants to do.
I mean, ideally, Minnesota wants to kind of go for a divide and conquer strategy where, you know, they split them up with all their lane priority. Once you try and answer that, you rotate over. But pretty much every time they have gone for a pick, the team of Wisconsin is grouped as 5. They are still relatively together, and that's the problem is the picks have not been clean. The primary target doesn't insta-die when Wisconsin's able to reinforce the team, and then they're able to turn it back for a couple of kills. So aside from the initial stuff going on in the bot lane that went heavily in Minnesota's favor, since then the picks have not been clean. And like we said before, Wisconsin has the better team fighting team, and if you're not able to start a 4v, get a kill and make it a 4v5 right away, Wisconsin is probably going to come out ahead in these fights.
Well, Wisconsin, in addition to being able to better orchestrate some of these team fight situations, has been able to pick up 3 Quicksilver sashes, 1 on each of their carries and 1 on their Kha'Zix as well. So that means that now Final has been getting caught out of position, has had a couple of good flash Nethergrass, really has to be careful as to what target he goes for, because it's either going to be the tanky Maokai or the squishy support Karma, because everybody else can break free.
I mean, that is the thing when you're playing the Malzahar. If you're flash ulting and trading your life for a carry, you don't look at that death and say, oh, what a terrible death. But the fact of the matter is that's not really how it's been going. And now with a lot of the primary targets that you want to lock down, having those QSSs, his job is going to get even harder. As we see a fight start around the top side.
Yep, Scooby gets hit up with the depth charge here. Final going forward once again is now going to get locked up immediately. Doesn't even use the Nethergrass again. And now Central Time, I feel like we just saw this around the Dragon Pit. Both of those kind of frontline champions. Malzahar not really being a frontliner, but he wants it going down.
He ends up being in the front of quite a few team fights with being expected to start with the flash ult. Talia's going to stay around mid lane, try and answer back, but Tall T's cutting him off from behind. Might have something to say about this.
Well, Cat Hat is going to wind up laying down a bit of damage, has to flash away from that command shockwave, but flash back from Tall T. Both these mid laners kind of trading heavy blows, but at the same time, Wisconsin has been given the go-ahead to start Baron with 2 members down from Minnesota.
Right, but the jungler's still up. Nutters is hovering around the area. They're going to use the Jhin ult to try and hopefully get a little bit of vision here. The Talia ult coming in as well. Blast cone's up. He can use it to get over the wall here.
Nutters is
he failed it!
The wrong way, tries the hook shot over the wall, but it's not going to be there in time. The smite did not secure it. It was Ashe that picks it up, and Nutters, unfortunately, is not able to steal that from Minnesota.
I mean, it was such a good idea from Minnesota on exactly how they wanted to contest that Baron. They had the Talia ult to lock in Wisconsin into the Baron pit. They had the Jhin ult coming over the top, trying to get members low and mess with their timings on the smite. And then Nutters just needs to hit the blast cone over and go for the contest, and then uses E to get out, but ultimately fails the blast cone usage, and then needs to use his E to get in, and then there's flash to get out. And at the end of it, Wisconsin still gets the Baron. He's going to take mid lane turret as well and continue pushing.
And now Wisconsin, they have a lot of towers left on the map that they're going to be able to take. There's only 3 down on their side. So they have this Baron buff up. They're going to be able to push in. And this will be a really great way for them to be able to break that second ring of towers. We're talking about how is Minnesota going to be doing it on their side. It didn't wind up working out for them. And now Wisconsin, they have a Baron buff. And that's kind of their solution to push in second tier towers.
Right, we're going to see most of them recall now with quite a chunk of gold to use because they haven't even gone back to the base since that top lane fight where they got the top outer turret. So they probably are all sitting on quite a chunk of gold. Scooby's going to deal with this bot lane wave before he gets his back off, and then you expect to see some kind of 4-1 setup where the Maokai's going to build a wave and the rest of the team's going to deal with mid and then hopefully group up with him.
And we've already seen a couple of items being completed. The Quicksilver Sash has been upgraded into a Mercurial Scimitar for the side of Scooby's Ashe. We've seen a Quicksilver Sash and a Void Staff picked up early by the Orianna, now being able to build into a needlessly large rod of her own, potentially going for either Luden's Echo or potentially Death Cat, already multiplying a lot of the AP she has herself, and the Hex Drinker in addition to the multitude of items that Kha'Zix has picked up into his inventory. Already Cenarius here, 6-2-6, having a great game on this Kha'Zix.
And man, I gotta give Scooby some props here. He keeps sniping out Cat Hat, forcing out that cleanse. I mean, it might seem like not the biggest deal, but it is pretty annoying when you keep getting one of your primary defensive tools forced out in these kind of random situations. You're not using it in a place where you're being aggressive, and then you have to cleanse to keep yourself alive. He's literally just getting shot with the arrow, forced to cleanse out, and then Wisconsin's able to keep doing stuff on the map.
Right, they're making a defensive summoner instead of something he's able to get him to use offensively in a situation like this. He could have potentially taken that Weaver's Wall in and then cleansed off some CC when he's second everybody off, but it's not available. And instead, Nutters has to use his own ultimate defensively just to trap people from taking him down. The depth charge goes out onto Sonaris, but Scooby's in the backline, takes down Final. A command shockwave comes out and Jin falls as well. That's 2 already gone from the side of Minnesota as the inhibitor falls. There's still Baron buff minions in the base, and it looks like Wisconsin is going for the Nexus. The first tower falls. The rest of Minnesota can only really watch as they're wailing away on these towers. It's a 3 versus 5 situation. There's a teleport tank from the Maokai just making sure the minion does not go down. Cat Hat tries the Weaver's Wall in, or tries to seismic shell in, but winds up going down here. Camille's able to pick up a kill for herself, but then she goes down, and with 4 members still left, Wisconsin going to take game 1.
Man, I really got to give props to Scooby. Even in that final push there, he was playing everything really aggressively, walking up to Malzahar, not scared of his ult at all. Keeps going, goes onto the Talia as well. Overall, a great game from him despite having some rough trades in the early game. They were in a not so great matchup, but he bounced back really well over the course of that game.
Yeah, and it looked like we thought Wisconsin, they had really good moves in the early game. They kind of had a bit of a lull towards the middle stages of the game where Minnesota was really kind of running around on them. But as soon as we hit kind of that, all right, it's time to group up, it's time to really go into like the team fight oriented phase, they were never caught out just different parts from their hold. They always stayed together and they always turned around those trades.
Right, well, let's take a look at one of those situations that really started to get Minnesota ahead. It was all centered around the bot lane. They had a handful of really good plays, especially this one here where they set up the brush gank initially onto Scooby. Nutters has snuck down into that lane. They're just waiting for him to get close enough, and there you see finally getting that flash ult off, followed up with the Jinru, followed up by the Camille ult. I mean, that is just not fun to play against as an AD carry.
No, the CC chain for Minnesota was strong this game, and this was that kind of play that after Wisconsin had gotten the first blood and they got a kill in the bottom lane, this is how Minnesota was able to kind of grab control of the game once again by setting up this brush gank, eventually pushing on that bottom lane tower.
Yep, and it was kind of, we mentioned, it did take a while because they're going to overextend during this push. They have 4 members up. They think this is going to be relatively easy, but the Ash arrow is going to come in after this force by Central Time. Great hook there to get that going, but then he gets caught out, and we see that the Orianna was roaming down as well, so that they end up getting 1 more kill on the backside of that play. So ultimately pretty close, but after getting that going initially, Minnesota really did stall out with what they wanted to do with their comp. They were still aggressive. It wasn't like they weren't looking for plays, but they just weren't able to convert off them the way they needed to, where most of the times the fights were still going even-ish. Not able to get objectives off the back of them, and that's really what their comp needed to do.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, the lack of objective control coming out from Minnesota was kind of their Achilles heel. They were able to take all 3 outer towers because they weren't able to pressure the Dragon Pit effectively, because they weren't able to set up Baron Vision. They had a very difficult time getting aggressive forward warding into the side of Wisconsin's map. They couldn't really break those 2-tier towers, and so when we wound up hitting like the 20-so-odd minute mark of the game where Wisconsin's grouping up was a lot stronger than the side of Minnesota, they really kind of started to fall apart.
Right, and you can see that in the jungle fight that happened at around 23 minutes into the game. We're talking about how Minnesota wants to keep looking for these split-up team fights. Here's one where they try and get one started in the jungle, but ultimately the rest of the team is still going to be able to collapse. We see Maokai is going to have his TP available to join this fight. The Orianna is not that far away in the mid lane, so when they start this off, hoping to cut off Dream and Sonaris here. Even though it starts that way, the TP comes in right away, instantly answered. The Ashe is not too far away with the ult. And, it starts looking all right for them, and they're able to get the first kill onto the Kazakhs and keep chasing down. Great ult there to snipe him out. The Malzahar already traded his life away, and you think this is going to be great, but the shockwave there pulling him in finishes off the Talia as well. And even though they're going to pick up 1 more kill here, that's still only a 3 for 2. Despite how great that looked for them, it's a 3 for 2 that they can't get any turrets or even a Baron off the back of.
And as you mentioned too, it wasn't necessarily the fact that it was the best fight in the world for Minnesota. Central Time's Dredgeline kind of wound up finding a miracle kind of target as it split down the middle of Wisconsin and kind of found Tall T as he was ghosting into the fight. But all those fights, despite how close they were even trades. They weren't able to get anything off the back of them. And then when they wound up kind of sending their carries into other sides of the map, they left open exposed areas. So even though Minnesota winds up winning that team fight, Wisconsin very shortly after that takes the Baron. Once they have the Baron, Minnesota's not able to get that kind of global map pressure they were getting when they're forcing the group up in a 5v5 fight. They weren't strong enough to take down the Orianna or the Ashe or even the Kazakhs, who had 6 kills at that point.
Right, and I think Minnesota still deserves some props for understanding what their comp needed to do.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't like a conceptual lack of understanding what they wanted. It was just that in their execution, they weren't able to get enough done. And we talked about how the standard team comp's always going to be a better team fighting team. And as the game goes later and later and later, they just keep getting stronger and stronger to the point where, eventually they are able to start getting a couple fights in their favor, and then they get the Baron. And once they grab the Baron, the game's essentially over.
Well, we still have a bit of League of Legends to play, so we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll see if Minnesota could take it to Wisconsin in the second game. Welcome back to BTN League of Legends. We just saw Wisconsin beat Minnesota in a hard-fought match. Mark, what does Minnesota need to change to wind up coming out ahead in the second game?
Well, apparently they're not changing their side. They're going to take red side again. And I think overall with their ban strategy, not targeting too many OPs, it looks like they're hoping to grab a bunch of those in their first couple rotations. We saw them get the Camille, and I think they might try and get that one again, hopefully, and then they can I think their overall strategy was fine. I think their execution needs to step up. So if they want to run a pick-heavy comp, a second game in a row, I'm totally fine with that. I think that's a fine strategy. Similarly, I think, Wisconsin, they looked very comfortable on a standard comp. So I could easily see a run back where you're mostly seeing the same champions.
Yeah, so a lot of it will have to come from the ban and pick diversity as we're getting into champion select for game number 2. Now, as you did mention, they like to stay on the red side this time around, but Minnesota's going to have an interesting task ahead of them because, as you did mention before, they banned out very targeted champions at Wisconsin. They banned away the Nami, and I believe they banned away the Zac. But if you're going to be banning away the Zac because you're afraid that's all Cenarius is going to want to play, and he picks up the Kazakhs and has that kind of performance, you got to think that's got to be taken away this time.
Right. I mean, maybe I'm not sure exactly what they're planning. We see the Zac ban yet again. Katarina, Zac are the 2 first bans, so it looks like it's going mostly the same way. Might see the salty run back. Give me the same stuff, I'll beat you again. I don't need any changes. The Rumble ban coming in. I mean, it's looking that way right now.
Yeah, and things do seem just kind of like a repeat. So that does kind of speak to the side, okay, we're going to stay on the red side. We want to have very similar champion bans, including a LeBlanc that comes out here. Then this is kind of Minnesota thinking like this was something that was not wrong with our composition, not wrong with the way that the ban phase played out, but more how we executed it in game.
Right, we see the Rek'Sai coming in, and the concern whenever you want to repeat a strategy from the red side is the fact that they can just first pick the Camille away, and then what happens to your whole plan? Is it going to be the same? So the Kazakhs ban comes in this time instead. I like that. No one prioritized Rengar in that draft, so we'll need to see if Wisconsin will take that as a second choice. Maybe they just prioritize Kazakhs more. Maybe they don't play it. It's hard to know for sure. We see the Nautilus coming in, grabbing that one. So already some differences in the draft. The fact that they are not getting the Maokai, considered probably the strongest tank support. They're having to take the Nautilus. Also still a very strong pick overall.
Yeah, and that means that Central Time's not going to be able to play that one. He had some very key dredge lines, had some decent depth charge usage as well. So now they're going to have to change some things up. And it looks like that Nutters, the Camille's left available. He's not going to pick it up, going for an Olaf on top of the Maokai being picked up.
Yeah, pretty surprising to see that. And the Maokai, like we were saying, an extremely strong champion. Maybe, we saw that Alex was getting bullied around the early game, even got solo kill under his turret. Maybe he doesn't want to give over the Nautilus again. Figures, I'll just take that away. Don't want to deal with that. It is an extremely strong champ. We see Sonaris going with the Vi, an extremely popular champion in solo queue right now. Very strong, very easy to use, lots of engage options. And overall very strong, and comboing it with the Orianna, setting up those shockwaves is very easy. Yeah,
they don't have the Maokai this time around to just twisted advance into the fight to combo off with that shockwave, but having the Assault and Battery come out from Vi, she's basically an even better ball delivery system because she can't be knocked out of that suppression. So it's going to be a very powerful kind of combination, and this is very similar to what Wisconsin wanted to do in game number 1. Their team fight composition looks like it's coming together very strong, but on the side of Minnesota, we do see a lot of change-ups now. Not only is the Olaf going to be the jungler, but they picked up the Syndra, which is a very different style of mid laner compared to last game with the Talia, but they do wind up picking up the Jhin again.
Right, so I mean, it is still somewhat pick-centric. Syndra's often at her best trying to find someone, stun them, blow them up instantly before they get out of that stun duration, and the Jhin can help that with the root. Maokai also having targeted lockdown CC, so similar idea right now, but it is an overall better team fighting comp when you see the Olaf as well, a champion who can get in there, and assuming he has like a small early game lead, can really start messing up backlines on his own. On the flip side, we see Wisconsin grabbing the Ezreal and Nami. An overall not great lane, in my opinion. I think that the Nami Ezreal, it is pretty nice when you get to see, the empowered Q with the Nami E on the Ezreal. It is a very annoying poke lane, but it's not very dominant. And lastly for Minnesota is the Taric.
Well, there's a lot of poke coming out, and then they wind up picking a melee support into that with the Taric. So that could potentially be a little bit more of a kind of like a breathing space area for that bottom lane coming out from the side of Wisconsin. But as we take a look at the results of the entire draft phase, we'll get a chance to really kind of compare these compositions because now it's Minnesota. They didn't change up a lot of things in the ban phase, but they do wind up changing up a lot of things in the pick phase. And now they actually have a little bit of supplemental DPS with that Syndra pickup. It kind of has the ultimate, the delete button, so to say.
You're not playing this game anymore button.
Yeah.
On the flip side for Wisconsin, they actually have a lot of long range engage. We talk about the Vi and Orianna combo. Sometimes it's too long range and the ball snaps back to the Ori. That's a problem, but you do have the Ezreal follow up as well. So assuming they actually get that combo off right, it is a pretty brutal combo where someone's expected to be deleted instantly. So both these teams have that option, and it is very hard to play Taric into really fast team fights like that where someone instantly dies, where Tarek is trying to, hopefully keep his whole team up. He's able to negate a lot of damage, but it takes a while for that ult to come in. And when it's a Vi with a Shockwave, with an Ez ult, it can be hard to get that down in time.
They got the Nami tidal wave as well. So we have the compositions in front of us, but of course we want to know who you think is going to win the second game. You guys can tweet hashtag LOL on BTN with either hashtag Wisconsin or hashtag Minnesota to make your pick. And I'm going to stand by my pick. I think even though they had a rough game one, I'm still liking the Minnesota composition. I really like the adaptation to the Syndra. We'll have to see as we head into game two.
I'm going to stick with Wisconsin as well, actually. I like their comp. I think that they showed they're pretty good at team fighting, and they have the tools to pull off some explosive team fights. So I'm going to go with them.
All right. Well, I like just disagreeing with you for disagreement's sake. So we'll get into game number two, and we'll see if Minnesota is going to have what it takes to extend this to a full best-of-3 series, or if Wisconsin is going to close it out in game number two.
Yeah, we'll see them right again, I'm sure. It looks like the first dragon will be an Infernal Dragon, so there could be a pretty explosive team fights early. I assume once people get 6, we'll see some stuff pop off, especially on the side of Wisconsin. Their champions do spike pretty hard at that point, whereas someone like, an Olaf doesn't need it to start taking over the game early. Same with a couple other champions like Maokai. His ult's great for negating damage and improves his team fight, but in terms of what he can do in lane, not the biggest thing.
And as everybody kind of rushes towards the top side, opposite what we saw last time where it was Minnesota rushing towards the bottom side of the map, I really want to see, with Infernal Dragon being the first Drake that spawns on the map, Wisconsin had 100% Dragon control last game. Granted, there's only 2 or 3 that wound up being taken that game. They were extremely good at being able to capitalize on the position that they were on the map, the back timings of the side of Minnesota, and just being able to, even though Minnesota was making a lot of the early map or the mid-game map plays, they were still able to kind of come out ahead in objective control that way. So now, instead of having the cloud and the ocean, having the Infernal deal that extra damage, we'll see if it kind of ups the tempo for Wisconsin, because they had the early game advantage in game one, then kind of lulled back until about 20 minutes.
Right, definitely an interesting thing to track. Like we were talking about in the last game with Minnesota, understanding their comp and what it can do in terms of having the concepts down. I liked what they did level 1, trying to go for a really cheesy rush the enemy, and if he's not quite ready, Olaf is nasty level 1 in terms of just being able to chase you down with constant undertows. So I like a lot of what Minnesota does. I'm just not convinced that they're able to pull it off consistently against Wisconsin.
We'll have to see here. Dewey Daddy does wind up taking a blast plan over the wall for a little bit of a swag leash, whereas on the opposite side, Cenarius and Alex are going to be starting on the blue buff side. So both these junglers starting on their blue sides of the map. That means, of course, that Vi is going to be down towards the bottom side of the map at post level 3, going to have both buffs for that, whereas Olaf will be clearing out the top side of the map. We'll have to see where the first action really happens this time around, because despite it being tank versus tank, first blood was in the top lane in game 1.
Right, it is the kind of thing where you see junglers go top early just because there is always that CC up there, and it makes it pretty easy to get some work done. And that's why you see so many people go up there, one of the easiest lanes to gank. But it will be interesting to see if they do it here. I think Olaf is really, really good at punishing tanks as well, because a lot of them have like 1 or 2 small defensive tools, and then he just picks up his axe and throws it again and says, "You're not out yet."
Well, despite how much damage would be being traded back and forth in the top lane, the bottom lane is also something we have to keep our eyes on. We talked about that the melee support being against 2 ranged champions in the bottom side of the map, and that bottom lane was also already a war zone. We saw the Jhin and the Malzahar combination in game number 1, being able to lock people up with the Malefic Visions and the Deadly Flourish. This time around, it's going to be a little bit harder to do that, as we already see the Ezreal and Nami shoving and hitting the early level 2.
Yeah, and the Terra pick is one that definitely is not picked for its laning capabilities. It's usually because it has the heal, is able to hold on to lanes, not lose them too hard, as we see Olaf just dropping an early ward, backing out, not looking to really gank the lane right now. But Tarek, like I was just saying, is a champion that does struggle in lane often. It's more of a hold-on lane, and then the ultimate is so powerful in team fights, assuming you can get it off correctly, which is not the easiest thing to do. A lot of people at all levels of play mess with his ultimate.
Yeah, his teamfight capabilities, if used properly, are truly, truly outrageous. But we'll have to wait and see for that, because we're still in the laning phase of this game, as Cenarius is going to wind up taking the Scuttle Crab on the bottom side of the map, and both of these junglers, very reminiscent of game number 1, just kind of going for a full jungle clear style on their first move.
Right, and we see Central Time taking a turret shot there, but overall coming out ahead in this laning phase so far, and I've been pretty impressed with his laning. He's been able to win both sides of this matchup now, and it is still early, not even past 4 minutes, but last time he was getting pushed, or last time he was getting the push, this time he's also getting the push, getting a lot of help, a little bit of help, from the Olaf, just giving him a ward to say you're free to do this. but you know, overall, very, very strong laning phase out of Central Time.
And this time he's not really being punished for it either. He was the one that gave up first blood in the top lane last time around, and we did chalk up the fact that he was bullying around Alex, even got that solo kill at level 6, just because of the amount of damage that early game Nautilus deals. But looking like, as you mentioned, having a mastery of both of these champions in the reverse matchup this time around, it may just be the fact that Central Time knows his stuff in this top lane, whereas when we were looking at the research for the side of Wisconsin, a lot of these players have kind of swapped roles around as they've been playing League of Legends. The team itself is fairly new. A lot of these, the team itself has been around since 2013, but a lot of the members on this iteration of the team are fairly new to each other. So they did have a little bit of a situation where they were playing different kinds of roles to figure out where they slot into the equation. And Alex himself, he had a lot of support, a lot of Shaco. Top lane kind of seems to be the thing that he's been shoehorned into here, so he may be, with a lesser understanding of those matches, be a weak point for if you're Minnesota.
Yeah, and it is the kind of thing where you end up being a role player. You do what your team needs you to do, and tanks are kind of like the role-playing champions where it's like, I'm here to farm out early and team fight late. And I mean, you can sometimes get trapped into that kind of mentality where early on you get visits a lot by people, and you don't think that the guy's going to solo kill you as a Nautilus, and there you are dead under turret, as we see Sonorous going over the wall, being joined by the Nami. Orianna comes down as well, getting a really, really early Infernal Drake, and this is great for their team comp.
Yeah, and there we go already. Sonara is going to start that off at level 4. I knew Vi at level 5 could solo dragging extremely fast, but when she has help like that and just being able to get that shove on the bottom lane, getting the good back timing for not only Ezreal's tier, but Nami's now going to be able to go back after that, or sorry, return to lane after that early back. They're able to just section off that dragon, and now we'll have to see what they do. The Infernal Dragon going to up their AP and AD by a small percentage, but that's going to give them a little bit more edge in some of these trades, and we'll see if Alex is going to be able to sustain himself up against Central Time here.
Right, we see Olaf once again coming up top, dropping a ward for his top laner to try and keep that pressure up. Alex doing a better job holding on this time, but still, you know, chunked out in lane and potentially risking a dive here, but we'll see what they end up doing. They're going to bump into each other.
Oh, Nutters and Sonaris just say hello as the scrying plant there just reveals the Vi. And Nutters giving a little bit more love towards this top side of the map. Central Time was fairly safe on his, or fairly well off on his own. Did not see a lot of jungle attention, where it was the bottom side of the map that really did. And now there's the matchup is kind of flipped around, and the bottom side of the map needs a little bit of love. We'll see a teleport coming in as soon as that bubble lands. The exhaust comes out. Nami has to burn the flash. The Vengeful Maelstrom comes out from Central Time. They turn around onto Alex because he's TP'd behind them to try to get on the Dewey Daddy. The stun dazzle does not wind up landing there from Tarek. A flash away from Alex. The Deadly Flourish comes out to stop the chase back from Scooby, and both teleports burn.
Crazy team fight in the bottom lane where ultimately nothing happens, and it was the kind of thing where the Tarek gets really aggressive early, but because he is, you know, pretty tanky, he takes a fair amount of punishment. The TPs come in. Ultimately, I think Alex was a little too far extended. They would have been nice if he could have gotten onto a different target, the same one that his bot lane was on, but scrappy fight overall, as Nutters is pretty happy about it. He gets to go tax his top lane. Oh, yeah, I'll push this in for you, don't mind me.
Yeah, this is like a jungler's dream. It's like, oh, you went bot lane? That means that there's farm in the top lane? Let me get this for you.
No, trust me, it's the right map play to push it in. He's being a team player.
We've got to reset the wave so when you get back, you're not being zoned out of experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a great team player, Nutters is.
Well, this is also going to mean that Nutters, whereas his last path is Camille. He farmed it to level 6, then started he went for a Tiamat, he went for a Trinity Force, he wound up trying to be a supplemental carry for the team. Didn't really wind up working out that way. However, this time around on the Olaf, getting a little bit earlier start, getting some more lane experience. He has at level 6, as has the Vi. So now we kind of accelerated that pace of the game. Beforehand, it took them till about the 10-minute mark to really get some ganks off. They set up that brush gank around the 9.5, 10-minute point. We'll see now if Nutters is going to be able to do anything a little bit earlier. He has a lot of gold in his pocket, has that level 6 available. Let's see if he's actually going to be able to utilize it this time.
I'll actually be keeping a closer eye probably on the Vi on the other side of the map, because she has finally hit 6. She has her ult available. She has some place she can go. There's a lot of summoners out in both the bot lane. Both Flash is still available, though, so she could easily get pulled into her turret. She has to be careful. And overall, none of these ganks seem super easy, so the first one's going to be more about forcing something out. And it looks like bot lane might be the target. Mid lane also a pretty common one to go for when you combo with the Orianna. There's a handful of those junglers that just love to prey on mid laners, like the Rengar, the Zac, Vi being another one. but she's going to be spotted on this ward. Going to have to clear that out.
Yeah, and you got to be really happy if you're going up against a Syndra in the mid lane. If you get one gank off, you blow the flash. You get another gank off, you blow the ghost, and then that's a escapeless summoner in that mid lane. And being able to use the assault and battery means that you can wind up going through that scatter the weak stun. Could be a very easy target, and you've already got an Orianna to make yourself nice and healthy and safe in that lane, as well as it looks like. Did Cat in the Hat not get that? Did that one go over the Nutters?
Oh, wow, it looks like it did. He did not get the blue buff.
That's a little unfortunate.
Sad. And it's actually a very dangerous thing, assuming your opponent gets the blue buff, because if you're down with cooldown and mana, it's hard to keep the push up against an Orianna. And once you lose like that kind of pressure in the lane where you're supposed to have it, you know, right now he's up 10 CS, but that could easily even out. You lose that advantage. You see Orianna roaming on the map easier now, visiting down bot lane before going back mid. So this could hurt Minnesota quite a bit, actually.
That was a play that Wisconsin tried to do around this time last game as well, where Tall T just kind of ran down and wound up using the Ghost this time around. He has the Exhaust instead, so more of a combat summoner as opposed to a mobility summoner this time. But they tried to do the same kind of roam on the bottom side, but Minnesota kind of sniffing that one out. They had a ward over towards the side of the tri-brush. They have a ward in the back brush on the bottom side of the bottom lane, so they know if anybody was trying to sneak around for a little bit of a cheeky lane gank. So Wisconsin not being able to get the same kind of early game pressure they did in game number 1, kind of being thwarted a bit by Minnesota as they get a little bit aggressive, force the arcane shift out of Scooby there with the Dazzle.
I want to touch on this mid lane for a second here with Tall T and his build. He actually didn't go 2 points E, which is sometimes something you sometimes see in the Orianna Syndra matchup. Getting that extra MR and shielding can be very useful, as well as not actually going a Negatron cloak early. So, you know, pretty impressive by Tall T to be hanging on mostly fine this lane, only down about 10 CS, despite the fact that, you know, she didn't prioritize any early defensive things.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's just a product of the fact that she took the Exhaust instead. Having the Exhaust means that you could wind up exhausting out the Syndra ultimate, but here now we have Central Time. Flashes forward there, winds up getting the first blood. He will go down because he flashed into tower range. I believe that he just did not want to knock out Nutters with that depth charge.
Potentially, but Nutters has his ultimate. You got to trust your teammate to know what he's doing and just pop that thing through there. I think you got to call that a misplay on the side of Central Time. Not only probably not needing to blow his flash, but also not needing to give up his life at the same time.
Yeah, well, we were praising Central Time for his potential mastery of the matchup that time around, but even sometimes the most knowledgeable of masters get jittery fingers, but that flash forward, he does secure himself first blood, so it's still worthwhile overall, and it does give an assist over to his jungler, but now he's not going to have flash available, and there's a teleport on the bottom side of the map. The tidal wave comes out. The Taric ultimate is there, so Dewey Daddy's going to stay alive for a little bit longer. Alex winds up coming in. The kill goes over to Tall T. Scooby's going to pick up the second kill there on Jhin, but there's no reaction from Minnesota. This tower's taking a lot of punishment.
Great play by Wisconsin because they're able to get the 5-man roam down bottom wall. Minnesota is stuck trying to answer around the mid and top side of the map. The fact that Nutters had just shown top and picked up a kill means that, well, he's still up there. Just when I respawn, I'll TP bottom. And it was a great play by Final being able to get the Taric ult in time to stop the shockwave damage and hopefully hold on. But it's still a 2v5 at that point. You really need some extra backup coming in. So despite the great Taric ultimate, not enough to negate the dive. On the backside of that, Wisconsin able to pick up the Ocean Dragon. 12 minutes in, have 2 dragons already.
And Wisconsin get their second dragon, but Minnesota got themselves a second tower. Olaf pushed down that top lane, and we saw Central Time use his teleport to get in the mid lane and hard shove that. So they have traded 2 towers, despite the first blood tower goal going over to Wisconsin. It's a gold advantage for Minnesota. And with 3 members strong still on the top side of the map, they're able to rotate down and take an inner tier 2 tower at 12 minutes.
I mean, props to Minnesota for making the best of a bad situation. The fact that they are able to turn back around and get the turret advantage pretty heavily, 3-1 now. The thing is, Wisconsin will likely be able to turn this back, as we see some scrapping still going on. They don't want to let them away that easily, but looks like Minnesota might be fighting still. No, it looks like they're not. Let's take a look at the replay of what happened bot lane. So like I said, it's a 5v2 dive, pretty brutal to play against. Great Taric ultimate to get it off in time and keep them alive through the shockwave damage, but the Taric ultimate doesn't last that long, and there's still the entire team there. Plenty of tanking able to be done. The turret is ignored for the most part, and a 2-for-0 for Wisconsin.
Yeah, and Alex is taking that just a little bit right there, but they had, once the minions arrive, they're able to just take down that tower, and they get the first blood tower gold. But as you mentioned, great adaptation by Minnesota. They don't teleport down to the bottom lane to try to turn around a dive. Instead, they move towards the mid lane. They capitalize by taking an objective. one of the hard things they had to do in the previous game was break the inner ring of towers. There's already an inner tower down on the top side because they're able to just meet up with Olaf, pushing down that top lane tower, and take an inner tower this early on. So while Wisconsin has double dragons, they got the first blood tower gold, everybody on the side of Minnesota, they're not going to be too disappointed about that. They actually have a slight gold lead at this point, about 1,000.
Well, it really depends how you look at it, because what Wisconsin got off that trade was, in a sense, non-guaranteed gold and resources. You won't necessarily get another dragon. You might not get those kills. Those turrets are there. There's sacks of gold saying, take me, Wisconsin. And they have many chances to do that over the course of the game. So they can make up this deficit much easier than Minnesota can make up if they fall behind.
Well, now it's going to be on Wisconsin. What is their next move? Looks like they're going to be contesting this blue buff on the side of Minnesota. And they do kind of have lopsided pressure on the map now as well. The mid lane had been pushed down by Minnesota, but Wisconsin's doing a good job of just kind of keeping priority in there. The Orianna with the blue buff, as you mentioned, going to be able to just continuously wave clear using the command attack and the command dissonance. But the top side of the map is being shoved out by the side of Minnesota, so things are a little bit wonky right here. And Minnesota, as you mentioned, may need a little bit more time to scale up, may need a couple of item spikes before they could really start to fight. Morello Namacon picked up by the side of Syndra. The Essence Reaver has been finished by the Jhin. The Spirit Visage has been completed by the Maokai, so they just kind of hit their own first item power spikes. On the flip side, the Ezreal is going to continue to scale up with the Manamune, eventually turning into a Miramana. Has picked up the Sheen for himself, and there's a lot of poke potential coming out from Wisconsin to kind of keep people at bay. And a bit of engage as well. A flash and a depth charge does trade a flash on from Cat Hat, and actually gets the Ghost as well.
Right, I think that's a great trade. Trading your tank's flash for the mid lane carry's flash is something you're always willing to do, because great, you got a 5-minute window now to basically kill her at any chance. You still have your Vise flash for another initiate tool, while now there's no defensive options for Cat Hat.
We did see Rift Herald being agitated ever so slightly. Unfortunately, our friend Rift Herald was not taken last game.
Yeah,
was
what
not
happened?
taken in the last game of our last broadcast either.
I thought the collegiate scene was all about Rift Heralds, and now we see him going largely ignored. It's gonna feel pretty bad for the Rift Herald.
It's a new patch. Maybe Rift Herald.
Not as
received
cool
no
on this
changes.
patch anymore.
I don't know. I'm still in an idea that we should get like a Rift Herald skin in the game where he has like a collegiate jersey on just to show his support.
I mean, you should go tell your team that.
I really should. Team, you're listening.
Yeah. So we see Wisconsin get the top side turret. Minnesota trading objectives pretty well once again, taking the bottom one, but Wisconsin does have the tempo advantage, and they are pushing down the top inner turret as well as the mid outer turret. So we're talking about, ooh, that's an aggressive flash forward right onto Dewey Daddy, and he gets popped.
Wow, well that's the combo we were talking about in Champ Select, and you couldn't really find a better example of it happening than right then and there. The Assault and Battery and the Command Shockwave, and Wisconsin doing their own Minnesota impression, going for multiple towers at the same time here. The Tidal Wave does go across. The Taric Ultimate will make everybody invulnerable. Backside comes Orianna, the flash forward, the command attack, the distance. The exhaust winds up going down, but so will Syndra. Now on the flip side, Vi is trying to charge in with the Vault Breaker over the wall. The top tower goes down, and everything's gone topsy-turvy for Minnesota.
Wisconsin looking like they know exactly what they want to do with this game. Even though we talked about the turret trades being good for Minnesota initially, Wisconsin showing that they're perfectly fine doing that as well. And I gotta look at Dewey Daddy there, die with both summoners up. I mean, the Vi did flash at him pretty aggressively, but you gotta be ready for that as you're walking up to a turret against a Vi and Orianna. You know they're looking to kill you.
I gotta also question the fact that he knew that there was a Vi and Orianna at that tower. It was not at the healthiest amount of HP, and he just kind of walked up by himself. The rest of his team had kind of been going up towards the top lane. We're going for a rotation to defend that tower. But now we got 4 towers apiece. Wisconsin's caught themselves back up in the gold lead, and now they have the slight 1.2k gold advantage.
Right, and this is what I was talking about where, well, how does Minnesota recover that now? They already have 4 turrets.
Right.
Now they gotta start winning some team fights, go get some more neutral objectives like the Baron, like the Dragon, something like that. Nick Dragon is a mountain dragon up in 20 seconds. Definitely something worth fighting over. It can help you claw your way back in the game. Get Barons later. They're gonna keep being these kind of turret trades. Having the mountain damage bonus will help a lot. It's gonna be interesting to see if they're able to actually fight this though.
We'll have to see if the Mountain Dragon, the team-wide help dragon, will be the target for Wisconsin. They already got the other 2 in this game. Minnesota's gonna be the ones that are trying to deny them from taking this one. As you said, Mark, this may be a point of contested, and it looks like it is going to be that. Central Time just recalled, has his teleport available. Skeever's gonna take a little bit of hope. Yeah? How so?
Just look at this, just queuing them right in their face, playing like he's a frontliner, shifting out whenever he gets a little damage. And Nami, they're like, no, that's okay. You got hit by one thing, you're fine. But we see the TP coming in from Central Time.
Yeah, he's teleporting right into the middle of absolutely everybody, so the fight is going to start. The tidal wave goes off. The Taric ultimate is available. They haven't thrown it down quite yet. Command Shockwave goes down, but it's only on Central Time. Sonoris is in the back lines. He is going to wind up getting ulted by the Syndra. Nobody's gone down quite yet. Ezreal shifts over the wall, and Alex in the front line is still at a healthy amount of HP. They're going to wind up chasing down onto Final, who will wind up falling. Now Cat Hat looks like he might be the next target, extremely low. Mystic Shot does go wide, and Minnesota loses one and the Earth Drake.
And Sonoris there was a little crazy, going over the wall, going 1v3 onto the Vibe. Probably could have dealt with just the front line first, worked their way front to back. You don't always need to blow up the back line, but it ends up working out. He has the blast cone to get out of there. Needed that thing pretty badly due to his flash being down from the earlier play mid. And we see after the Dragon, Wisconsin wants to put that Mountain Drake to use right away, going for the bot inner turret.
10% extra damage to epic monsters and towers as that 5th tower of the game goes down for the side of Wisconsin. And they're going to get themselves a nice little exit blue buff.
Nice little parting gift. Hope you enjoyed your stay on our side of the map. Please have this as well.
Well, Talty's going to refresh that one for himself. And now Wisconsin, they're making the moves once again. We crested to about that 20-minute mark. We said that they were the ones that were able to respond once we kind of hit the mid-game advantage. But they've been making moves even slightly before that. Minnesota's top lane is kind of pushing down over here. But as you said before, I believe sacks of money have been left on the map for Wisconsin just to pick up.
Yeah, Wisconsin's like, ooh, this minion wave? Yes, please. And we see Oriana's going to try and hold mid versus the rest of the team. Oh, might get blown up here. Goes down to Cat Hat, and now we see the counterplay by Minnesota picking up another kill onto Sonoris. Gotta be careful, man. You can't just walk up to Syndra just because she's not been winning, like stomping you. She's still a threat. She still does damage. 2 down for the price of 1 ultimate right there. And now it's going to be Minnesota looking to potentially get Baron pressure. There is the honey fruit plant going to be healing up Cat Hat after he's taken a little bit of damage. And with a blue buff on him, he's going to be able to spam these dark spheres. The Baron looks like it's going to be taken by Minnesota. The rest of Wisconsin is trying to funnel up in here with no jungler available, though. Are Minnesota going to turn? The Taric ultimate is there. Looks like they're going to be focusing down on the Baron. They're going to try to burst this one down, and the smite available for them means they will secure it. And now the Twisted Advance goes forward as the charge is led on to Alex. 1 shot, 2 shots go down, and Taric picks up the kill there onto the Nautilus. A really nice triple bubbles going to disengage Wisconsin from that fight, but Minnesota, they get 2 kills, they get some action, and they get a Baron. We were talking about how they probably needed a neutral objective to come back into this game. They managed to grab their Baron buff, and they can probably convert to get a couple more turrets off the back of it. Let's look at exactly how they were able to get that done.
Yeah, it looks like it was just Wisconsin had recalled. They got the Dragon. They felt like, all right, we're in control. We could take this one kind of slow. We'll just defend, and oh no, Cinder damage.
Right, I mean, it's the kind of thing where it's like, you know, Oriana's like, okay, I'll walk forward, I'll deal with this wave. But we talked about the lack of defensive itemization on her side. You see what happens. The Syndra's able to blow her up straight through her shield. They get the kill. They get the follow-up kill on Vi. And then without those 2, you know, kind of really heavy threats on the side of Wisconsin, no one else really wants to walk up to contest that Baron. And we also see the power of the Taric ultimate. Basically, usually when you're against the Baron, you have to be really scared about positioning. Who's tanking it? Who's you know, frontlining against the enemy team. When everyone's invulnerable, it doesn't matter about your positioning. No one taking damage, so they just were able to finish the Baron very easily.
There's really good target selection too, like you mentioned. Nobody's taking damage from the Baron. They can pretty much ignore the enemy team for the duration of the ultimate. Just all focus the Baron, slowly but surely take it down, and then they're like, oh, you know what? There's a Nautilus on our way. We're gonna take them down next. So that means that the University of Minnesota is going to have a lot of extra gold on their side and a bit of a power spike. The Command Shockwave gets used. It only catches on the Taric, though, so they're not going to have that for this potential tower dive here.
Syndra's going down, though.
Syndra, she tanks a tower shot up, and she will wind up going down. Alex gets the kill credit for that one. The tidal wave comes out from Nami as well, and now Central Time is in the front. A flash forward by Sonoris. Looks like he wanted to try to ult something. The Assault and Battery will go down onto Nutters, and Scooby picks that one up, so now he is on a killing spree. Final's going to fall after that one, and this has been a disaster for Minnesota.
It all goes wrong. You see the Oriana Shockwave go down, you say, aha, they lost one of their critical tools for team fighting. We can force around this turret, but it's not that simple. The Syndra ends up taking a ton of turret aggro, grabbing that before her tanks, and it's going to lead to a 3-for-0 for Wisconsin. Critical misstep by Minnesota.
They got the Baron buff. You got to be aware of those towers, don't you know? So Wisconsin's going to take down that mid lane tower off the back of that one. The Baron buff still on Central Time and still on Dewey Daddy. Not going to be enough to dissuade them from that. So now Wisconsin, they got the Dragon earlier. They lost the fight in the mid lane that they looked like they just weren't prepared for. They lost the Baron. But once again, they were just like, well, hold on a second. We had control of the game. We're just going to take it back right now.
How long were you waiting to do that?
Oh, I was waiting for a while.
The whole series, you were picking your spot. That was it?
I was waiting for it, yeah. I'm not going to lie.
All right, it wasn't that bad. Things aren't looking too good for Minnesota either, so they had that one coming a little bit.
I guess so. I mean,
it's the kind of thing where it's so sad because they get that Baron buff, and that's kind of your power play is usually how you think about it. It's like having an extra man on the map. The minions become so much stronger, so much better for pushing, and they just flubbed it. They had the chance to grab this game back away from Wisconsin, unable to do so. Wisconsin basically up 3,000 gold now. And I mean, Minnesota, to their credit, they do still have Baron buff on a couple members. Looks like they're trying to still get some usage out of it.
Yeah, they have a couple seconds left on, and CatHat's just going to go in and immediately delete the Nami, so there's no tidal wave available for this fight to kind of turn things around. The Vi's going to go in the backline, though, winds up picking up a double kill, takes down the tank, tanks down the Syndra. Olaf in the backline trying to zone away Ezreal will wind up going down, and now that the rest of the carries are in the fight for Wisconsin, Minnesota is going to go down. A double kill picked up by Scooby, and only Dewey Daddy is left, and he needs to hightail it out of there.
Oh, Nutters, the sad life of an Olaf trying to chase down this Ezreal who keeps getting shields, speed ups away. He's got his flash, arcane shift. How do you pin him down? He's unable to do so, gets caught under the turret, dies at the end of that team fight. And I mean, on the flip side, the other jungler, Sonaris, going crazy on the back line of Minnesota, picks up 2 kills.
So wound up putting out a little bit of excessive force and picking up 2 kills after the assault and battery wound up landing. It looked like it started great for Minnesota. CatHat immediately deletes the Nami, but the Nami is not dealing a lot of damage. Sure, she has disruption with the tidal wave, but it's not a primary target. And unfortunately for Minnesota, they have not been able to take down Ezreal once, and they've only been able to get to Orianna once.
I mean, it's not getting any better for them. This 4th dragon spawns. This is going to be the 4th dragon for Wisconsin in this game. They had all the dragons last game. It is another Mountain Drake, getting out 20% bonus true damage to objectives, and that is a huge, huge boost in trying to force things down.
Yeah, and we see right here, CatHat immediately just deleting the Nami, catching her out from under tower. The tower ultimate does wind up going off, but Vi is waiting and biding his time.
Unable to get, he just can't get to him. He's got the flash, the shift away, the Orianna to help out. There was even the exhaust. He tried to ignore that, unable to do so. And like I said, Vi able to, finish off that Syndra who got pretty low and was saved by the Taric ultimate. But the front line was still mostly healthy, and the Orianna was untouched for most of that fight.
Yeah, so now that means Wisconsin solidified themselves into about 3.5 gold advantage. So even though we're still 26 minutes in, so even though it's been a fairly active game, 13 kills to 6. So 19 kills in this game so far. We're still under the 30-minute mark, so we're still hitting the point where some of these very big 2-item power spikes, going on 3-item power spikes are going to be very important. We've already seen the Luden's Echo, the Merlonomicon, looking like a Void Staff going to be picked up next for the Orianna. Trinity Force Blade of the Rune King completed, as well as the transformation of the Muramana for Ezreal. So that's where a lot of the damage from Wisconsin is coming out. But on the flip side for Minnesota, Jhin has completed a rapid fire cannon, but hasn't gotten that second big ticket damage item. And on the side of Syndra, Merlonomicon and Void Staff have kind of been the items she's been sitting on for a little while already.
Right, the carries of Minnesota are definitely a little underpowered compared to their counterparts, and that's the big concern because Wisconsin's front line isn't the best around, but you do have the Nami to supplement it, the Orianna shield, and I mean, Nautilus himself is really strong. So even though the Vi doesn't have that many defensive stats right now, she does have the tools to keep her alive outside of her own itemization.
You got a lot of crowd control in Wisconsin to really just kind of toss you around. Nami bubble, Nami tidal wave, everything Nautilus does.
Right.
The Orianna
entire
shockwave,
kit.
Nautilus, the champion, will just be keeping everybody from basically dealing that damage. So if you have that decreased amount of window, sure, you have a Syndra, you can burst people down. Sure, Jin's critical strike will burst people down. But if you can't actually get the damage done besides that burst, you're not going to be able to delete anybody, except for the Nami, who they deleted last fight.
We see 27.5 minutes into the game, Wisconsin posturing around Baron. They have decent kind of mid-depth vision where they have a lot of vision over the wall, but they don't have any deep into the jungle of Minnesota to really know where they're coming from. As we see Central Time get caught out of position a little bit.
Yeah, we could see that, but Minnesota can't because that entire side of the map is dark, and there's going to be a flash, assault, battery, then knocked down by Vi. The tidal wave gets used as well, and Sonaris X picking up his 4th kill of the game.
What's what we were talking about, the tools on Wisconsin to help heal up any tanks that get low. Vi should have traded most of her health bar there, killing the Syndra, but with the help of Nami, she's already back to full health, basically, and they're able to burn this Baron down for free.
Yeah, there is a lot of damage coming out from Wisconsin as that Baron goes down. Ezreal's going to just get a cheeky shift over the wall, winds up getting a lot of damage down on the fair, but trades a decent amount of damage back onto himself. He was kind of in a 1v3 poke situation there, but now with the Baron buff on the side of Wisconsin, they've taken down 6 towers. The only ones left are the ones in the base of Minnesota, and this Baron buff's gonna help them crack those.
We also saw the weakness of the red side Olaf there, unable to get over the Baron wall to try and go for a steal. His ultimate doesn't help, no mobility, and he's got to go to the summoner. Can't really do much as we see Minnesota waiting on the Syndra to respawn, has to sacrifice their mid inhibitor, and with a fat bottom wave, Wisconsin's going to rotate down there, hoping to get another inhibitor as well.
Yeah, and without the Syndra, there's very little wave clear. Even with the Syndra and the Baron buff, though, these minions are not going to be taking a lot of damage. And now it's up to Minnesota. They're trying to engage. The Taric ultimate is out. He's trying to save Central Time. His Twisted Advance will keep him alive for just a little bit longer, but they go on to Alex, and now the trade is coming in. Now that the Taric ultimate is down, Final will fall from Scooby. He goes over the wall, but he flashes back. In the meantime, Talty will take down Cat Hat. Nutters gets knocked up and dropped down from the bubble. The Guardian Angel will revive him, but he will not be long for this world. That is 4 kills for 1 on the side of Wisconsin.
I mean, Scooby sometimes just goes man mode, especially around the other team's base, this time shifting into the team fight, but he knows his limits. He's able to be kept alive by his team and keep putting out that damage. Another great game out of him, and it looks like Wisconsin's going to be able to close this one out, likely taking the series 2-0.
Wisconsin will take down the Nexus Towers. One more tidal wave, but a deletion of Dewey Daddy in the base. That will be the ace, and that will be the game. Wisconsin, a convincing 2-0.
Very convincing, and I was talking about Scooby at the end there. He really was the player that I think impressed me the most over the course of this series. Game 1 didn't have a great matchup, but stayed ahead and farmed the entire time. Was able to hit a lot of nice arrows and team fight extremely well. This game, you know, he's on the Ezreal, but they are winning lane once again, and then he's able to basically carry his team with excellent team fighting, and he's very aggressive overall.
Well, that's the normal game hero, Scooby, coming out here.
Yeah, I mean, I love when you get those kind of storylines. This guy who, you know, doesn't play ranked all the time, not super high on the leaderboards and all the ladder stuff, but he's a very, very skilled player.
Yeah, he looked like he would be in that game, and Wisconsin in general looked like they had a lot better team cohesion than the side of Minnesota. I mean, we talked to these guys before. They do say they do get a little bit of practice in, and Wisconsin was one of the teams that actually said that they set up scrimmages with other collegiate teams. So it'll be really interesting to see if this is where like that kind of teamwork kind of meta game, you know, to use that kind of phrase, but where like the collegiate kind of scene makes its own identity for like these very strong teams where all the players kind of come together.
Right, and I think you can look at the first replay that we're going to have with that turret dive that really shows a understanding of how the team game is played. These are the kind of dives that you need to make in organized team settings to really break games open, because generally teams are too competent to just hand leads away. So here, they see the jungler on the top side of the map, they say instantly, let's make the flip side play. They go for a bot lane dive, and even though I said before, it's a great ultimate by Taric to negate a bunch of damage, at the end of the day, it's a 5v2, and that's really hard to turn with just your bot lane and a turret. So they're able to get that dive off, they get the bot lane turret, they grab a dragon, they're able to take everything that they possibly can off just this one simple play.
Yeah, and even though Minnesota is able to answer by getting 3 towers of their own and in the long run from the result of that play, this is that tempo play that Wisconsin wound up taking early on, and that's the kind of stuff that we saw them doing throughout this series. Once they were able to kind of dictate a pacing to the game, they weren't necessarily going to be giving up. Sure, they lost a couple of objectives, they still got every single dragon, and then as we moved into the later stages of the game, they were able to take fights and continuously win them in their favor.
I mean, anytime you make a play, you can expect a competent team to punish that somehow, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're not just going to let you freely take 2 objectives on the bot side of the map. So, you know, props to Minnesota being able to trade back as well, but the fight is still heavily in Wisconsin's favor because they can go back and get those turrets at a later point.
Mm-hmm. And as we've crossed into like the middle stage of the game, around the 24-minute mark, we'll get to see a fight where Wisconsin winds up coming out ahead in a bottom lane fight trade, where they wind up getting, I believe it's a 4-for-1 overall. And this is something that Minnesota initiated with the last dying breaths of their Baron buff, and it started like it was looking out great for them when Cat Hat gets the stun on the Nami.
Right, but I mean, the Nami is not the biggest threat on the side of Wisconsin, so even though that's great, what really would have been an amazing team fight for them is if they were able to finish off Scooby here, but he's able to kite away. The Olaf tries to finish him off. It's that sad Olaf life where he's not able to do much. On the flip side, Vi using that can't get away ultimate, blows up this Syndra, and we see the Olaf go down, so both junglers die, but there's so many resources left on the side of Wisconsin. They're able to chase down throughout the rest of this team fight, picking up the Taric for ultimately a 4-for-1, or 4-for-2, excuse me, and that was really what you were saying, like kind of that last gasp. They had already lost the team fight with the Baron buff. They barely had any left on any of their members, and they're just trying to get something else with it because they know this is the end of their kind of advantage in the game.
Well, in Minnesota, they tried to make things happen. They tried to make movements on the map. They tried to take very good tower trades, but the inexperience of the roster kind of showed. This is the team that is a relatively new team in the Collegiate League of Legends scene. You mentioned before, they just wanted to get top in their group to kind of start off their kind of inaugural season here. And they showed they do have the makings of a very solid kind of team, but they have a lot of holes they can definitely shore up.
Right. I think they showed good conceptual understanding of team comps and what they want to do with their teams. In the first game, they had the pick-heavy thing, and they tried to make them work, but they were unable to really isolate targets. And then in this game, they understand that they have the Olaf early. He tries to bully, get some vision down. They go for the level 1 cheese, kind of hoping they can catch somebody out. And overall, I liked what I saw out of them, but clearly Wisconsin was the better team today.
Yeah, unfortunately, Minnesota, they let me down. They picked up a Camille, and they weren't able to take a win with it either.
I mean, yeah, how do you not win with Camille? The champion's broken.
I don't know. Well, let's take a look at the schedule because next week we have another exciting BTN matchup as Michigan State takes on Indiana.
Right, Michigan State made it to the playoffs last year and was knocked out by Ohio State University in the first round. It'll be interesting to see if they have what it takes to beat Indiana and return to the playoffs.
Yeah, so that's going to be some exciting action coming up next week, but that's going to be our show for today. So we will see you guys next week, and thank you for watching. From Central Time, Nutters comes in, but it's already given up first blood over to the side of Wisconsin.
Central Time getting dinked again.
Yeah, he's not getting on his own 1v1. Now Alex is called for help, and Cenarius is going to be leaping on him there, and the taste of the fear is there. Kazakh picks up a second kill.
But we see Wisconsin doesn't want to give it up that easy.
Ooh, Central Time eats the Enchanted Crystal Arrow, but Dream's going to get knocked back in there by the seismic shove. Central Time's going to get pushed and pulled around by the command shockwave as Tall T takes a lot of damage. Yeah, a lot of CC coming out from the side of Minnesota. Talia comes in, the seismic shove goes backwards. Final's actually going to get stunned up by the Enchanted Crystal Arrow again, and this Malzahar, his 5th death of the game. He continues to be the frontline Malzahar that is giving an assist over to his jungler, but now he's not going to have flash available, and there's a teleport on the bottom side of the map. The tidal wave comes out. The Taric ultimate is there, so Dewey Daddy's going to stay alive for a little bit longer. Alex winds up coming in. The kill goes over to Tall T. Scooby's going to pick up the second kill there on Jin, but there's no reaction from Minnesota.
We're talking about that's an aggressive flash forward right onto Dewey Daddy, and he gets popped.
And now Central Time is in the front. A flash forward by Cenarius. Looks like he wanted to try to ult something. The Assault and Battery will go down onto Nutters, and Scooby picks that one up, so now he is on a killing spree. Final's going to fall after that one, and this has been a disaster for Minnesota. There's no tidal wave available for this fight to kind of turn things around. The Vi's going to go in the backline, though, winds up picking up a double kill, takes down the tank, tanks down the Syndra. Olaf in the backline trying to zone away Ezreal will wind up going down, and now that the rest of the carries are in the fight for Wisconsin, Minnesota is going to go down.